Good afternoon and welcome to your daily support call. Today I am blessed to have Dr. Alvin Brown, the big man himself, with us. Alvin, why don't you give us an introduction, tell us a bit about yourself and what you've been doing recently in our community.
All right, Marcus, thank you very much for having me on. It's an honor to be here. I know we've been trying to connect for a long time, but when the timing's right, it's perfect. So I've been, Marcus, I started quite a few years ago. I've been in the health and wellness field for over 30 years now. And I began as an athlete. Actually, I can go farther than that because if I count my athletic days, I started off as a martial artist, boxer. I ended up into dance. I got into professional dancing, ballet, tap, jazz, all that kind of thing. At the beginning, not knowing what I really want to do, but I know I want to do something where it was facing the public. I love to entertain. I love to change people's state. So didn't know what I wanted to do. So I thought that was it. Naturally, coming from a poor background, a single mother, I'm the youngest of 5, single mother. I didn't think education was part of my DNA. I didn't see anybody before me go to beyond high school. So I thought athletics is going to be my key role. So I put a lot of energy into the athletics. But as that started to dwindle, that vision started to dwindle, and I was in my 20s, my early 20s, and my partner and I were starting to think of, okay, what are we going to do with our lives? And if I didn't make the Olympics, my goal was to make the Olympics, for either martial arts or boxing, whichever one. For me, that was my university. If I made the Olympics, I'd turn pro. But I didn't make the Olympics. And I thought, okay, shift. What am I going to do next? I remember now, education. I didn't think education was for me. So that wasn't a equation for me. So I started milling around at odd jobs, doing, you name it, construction, warehouse. I put my application to become a police officer, firefighter. I was thinking of comfort. I needed security is what I wanted. I was looking at GM, Chrysler, anything like that, bus drive, you name it. I was just not thinking that I had that capability beyond that if sports didn't work out. But a part of me knew that wasn't for me. There's something in me that said that wasn't for me. But again, the mindset shift. When you have limited beliefs, it's hard to see beyond it. When you're in the frame, when you're in the picture, you can't see the frame. So I had limited beliefs about what I could do and where it could go. So anyways, serendipity, as life would happen, this is a whole other call to talk about serendipity in life. But as serendipity would have it, things happened that led me to massage therapy. Massage therapy got me into the body, and I knew I loved the body. Actually, the first foray I had was as a personal trainer. I went to Seneca College, did a fitness leadership program, and got my diploma there. That kind of got me in the ball of, okay, beyond high school, I can do something. And then I got into massage therapy. Massage therapy blew my mind open on anatomy, physiology, all the ologies. And so that really blew me open. And then from there, I got introduced to nutrition. So I'm a holistic nutritionist, and then acupuncture, Chinese medicine, and I just kept rolling and rolling. And then I thought, you know what? I need a degree. I need to get that monkey off my back. I need a degree. So I started looking at osteopathy. That was my final foray, and then psychology. I got my degree in psychology, and then I studied neuro-linguistic programming. So at the end of the day, here I am now with all these tools, because my goal, my passion is, how do I make you better? How do I make you, I don't like okay. I don't like anything okay. I want to go to that next level. How do I help my clients to do that? How do I help them to get to that next level? So I came up with something called Integrated Peak Performance Consultant Advisor. How do I help you in different facets of your life, nutritionally, mentally, emotionally, to get to that next level? How do I do that? So I went on a study to do that for the last 30 years. And that's what my clinic is about. I now have a clinic for the last 13 years. I have a clinic called the Center for Healing and Peak Performance in Pickering, Ontario. I had one in Toronto, but I drew that back to kind of focus. I wrote a book now here's a guy who thought he could never go beyond high school. Now I'm a published author. In 2015, I wrote a book called Journey to Personal Greatness, Mind, Body, and Soul. And a second book's on the way. So in just that when I encapsulated that short time, what I want your audience to realize is that you got to really check your limited beliefs, because I tell you, I now believe in your lifetime, anybody's lifetime, you could never scratch the surface of what you're capable of doing. And you just got to challenge yourself. Challenge every belief you ever thought that you couldn't do, because it's a limited beliefs. And remember, you can't, we want to promote everybody else looks so great, but we downplay our own skills. And so, you know, that's my lesson to your audience. And I still am learning that lesson of what my capability is. And I keep pushing it every year. So that's kind of my history. Author, father of four, been in my relationship for 30 odd years now. High school sweetheart. And so I balance all of that, running my business, writing the books. You know, my partner's great. You can imagine that behind every person who's successful, there's somebody supporting them. And that's what I have with my partner. So, so I'm blessed to have that. And the kids are great. They're doing amazing. It's been a blessed journey, and there's lots more in store. So.
Absolutely. Wow. So much there that you've opened up. So it's actually funny too, when you talk about limiting beliefs or the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
We're all blinded sometimes to our own. And I'm smiling at your own story, because you talked about all these areas where you found you were challenged, where you put yourself in a box, yet you open it up by saying, when I got into sports, I was like, I'm going to the Olympics, as if it was no big deal. And
Right.
I love that, because just this morning I was talking with one of the students in one of our business programs. We actually run some mentoring programs now called the Limitless Results Mentoring Program. So we're all about being limitless. And he was talking about, you know, how some of the big ideas we discuss scare him. And I was like, but they're not really big ideas, they're ideas. And I'm sure when you first thought that you were going to the Olympics, for you, it wasn't like some big idea. It was like, I'm going to the Olympics, right? And yet, so I find that interesting how in one area of your life, you were so open, so driven, so this is going to happen. And yet in some other areas, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to college. So it's interesting how we can be blinded to things ourselves.
100%.
So I wanted to touch on that. I also wanted to let people know how our relationship started as well. So this would be about 6 years ago, according to your timeline, because I remember when we first met, you were just working on your first book. And you were actually my first experience with any type of alternative medicine. And I had really bad dislocated shoulder issue. You may not remember it at all, but for me, I'll never forget it. And I was singing your praises, and I've been promoting you ever since, because I'm a 6'1", 245-pound man. And I sat in your office, and you did a couple of things to pop this here and poke that there. And I have never been ragdolled by anybody in my life, but you made me feel like I was a 6-year-old child that weighed nothing. And it was the most uncomfortable but amazing experience I had to date. And that was a big eye opener for me as well. And so, yeah, the last 8 years of my life has actually been, we were talking about this before the call, doing remote project management systems, training, implementations. So we're all about the distributed teams. That's what we do. And it opened me up to be more than simply that traditional type of, you know, project manager certified go-to. So we started doing small business mentoring programs, which deal with a lot of the things you're talking about. In fact, for my audience, just to reiterate to them, they almost get sick of hearing me say it, but test everything. Separate your data from your story and test it to see what's true, right? So it's a lot of fun. So that brings us up to speed about where we've been, but let's talk about where things are right now. You know, as you said, there's a lot going on. You've got a clinic going on. Talk about how things have affected you, not just on the professional level, but, you know, what were your challenges when all of this world transition happened, and how did that lead you to whatever it is you're doing today?
Okay. Amazing question, Marcus. I'm saying amazing because this has been a thought on my mind I journal a lot, and I do a lot of introspection on my journey, because if you don't look at your journey, you'll repeat it again if you don't stop and just slow down. A life uninspected isn't worth living, I think it was Socrates or Seneca. So, you know, this time right now, so at first I was resistant. This is not really that big deal. You know, it was coming, I could hear it coming, but come on, it's a flu. You know, 48 million people have flu every year. And, you know, almost 1 million gets hospital, sent to the hospital, and 80,000 die every year. I had the stats down, on those kind of things. So it's not going to be that big of a deal. Well, as it escalated and kept going, okay, it is what it is. All right, I see what it is. Okay, so we're going to let's hold off for a minute. We're going to practice all the CDC requirements and WHO. We'll spray and we'll do all the things. And then it came down to the time when the government finally tightened it and said, no more. Unless it's an emergency, you can't go in. Okay. So now I'm on to surrender. I'm surrendering. I resisted first, pushed back. Now I'm surrendering. Because what surrender does to the moment and to the crisis is allows you now to get rid of the fight, because the fight takes up brain space and bandwidth, and now isn't productive. You're pushing against, you're going uphill. So going against the stream. So now I gave up. I surrendered, not giving up as in lay there, expecting the train to come in, but I'm now surrendered. Surrendering though means I'm going with it. I'm going to flow. So now that I'm going to flow, my mind is left to think of, what can I do? What can I do to get better? What can I do to improve? What can I do to deal with what's in front of me right now? And so lots of ideas. It's amazing when you give up that struggle. It's amazing what you let come into you. And that's where I'm at now. There's so many. I'm zoomed out with all the extra calls, and I've never networked this much before. As you said, Marcus, we've been talking a lot, and we've never connected. I've never taken the time to do deep networking with anyone, because I've been so busy working in my business, working on it, vision and dreaming, my family. Now I've just cut out 40 hours of work. Right. On my work, I'm intimate with you for an hour. That's my day. And by the time I'm done, I'm done. I'm mentally done, because I'm giving you so much for 8 hours. I've given people so much. So now I've got that bandwidth free, and ideas are flowing. So to your audience listening, it's surrender. And surrender means stop the struggle. Don't be in the moment. Be now. Take care of now, because when we don't know what the future will bring. Every day right now, the thing about this virus is we realize that we don't have control. I don't have control. Every day you wake up, it's a new reality, something new. We've tightened up the reins a bit more. You won't be going back for a little while. More people have it. It just goes up. So you get used to the change is a constant during this thing. It's making us all realize that. So deal with now. What's happening today? What can you control today? That's the only thing you can control is your attitude, the set of your sail. I don't know if you love, I'm most likely you do love Jim Rohn, past philosopher. Yeah. Right? Jim Rohn says the set of your sail. The wind will blow. This is the wind. The COVID-19 is the wind. It'll blow you. Every day it's a different direction. But if you set your sail in the direction you want to go, you'll end up there. Just go with the flow, go with the wind. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm at the surrendering piece. I'm at the new discovery. What's there? What's out there now? What is this opportunity providing for us? And then I heard a great speaker. He said, he posed a different way to look at it. He says, every crisis that happens, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And if you look at it, death, like anything traumatic in your life, causes you to change. And you can choose to not and fight it for a whole bunch of decades or years or months, or you can choose to accept what is and shift. So that's where I'm at now. I'm at the shift. I'm at, I now have 40 extra hours that I'm using wisely to reinvent myself, because this too shall pass. And when it does, I want to be on the wave. So.
Right. And we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, so much there. Thank you for sharing. I love that you can be just openly vulnerable as a strength. That's something that I love. I'm smiling a lot when you talk, because my audience is going to think we scripted this, because you're saying all the things I would say, which is really funny. And to me, that's refreshing, because it just reinforces the alignment of leadership. Because of course, I went through the same type of thing when this happened. And I had another guest on here last week. Essentially what she had helped us identify is that we're all going through the stages of grief, right? And then once we get to that acceptance or surrender, as you called it, and we realize there's no going back, that there's only going forward, that
Mhm.
as things normalize, we have to be on the forefront of that. We have to have the sail set to ride the wave. And that's, I think, where a lot of people are reactively still stuck in the fear stage of grief, because we're all complacent, right?
Mhm.
And what
Yeah.
we've been watching happen fundamentally, you call it a shift, I'm going to call it the demise of the traditional 9 to 5 rat race. And
Mhm.
suddenly all these people, like, because we're not all entrepreneurs, people have 9 to 5 jobs, they have very real routines, and
Yeah.
all of that has been disrupted, and they don't know if it's even going to be there going forward. You and I
True.
are very blessed because we've taken the opportunity to build up a business that can pivot, and we have control over that in our
Yeah.
lives,
Yeah.
which is phenomenal. So you talked about how now with your 40 hours a week, you're looking at new things to do. You're looking at how you can pivot yourself, better take care of your team, your family, your health. So besides becoming the latest TikTok celebrity,
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to throw it in there somewhere
I
because,
knew it was coming. I knew it was
yeah,
coming.
of course it is. Like, I love your TikTok
Yeah.
videos. You're a
That's,
braver man than I am. So
you know what I
kudos.
mean? That's it. That's it.
I love it, and it's great that you actually do it with your family, because in a time where we are all kind of like in this forced physical distancing and quarantine, well, some people are starting to have their tempers rise and their nerves fray.
Yeah.
Here you are with your family, releasing any of that hostility in one of the most
Yeah.
positive, beautiful, entertaining ways possible.
Love it.
So I love that
Appreciate
you're
it.
spending time that. But
Yeah.
what else are you spending your time in? What does your routine look like nowadays?
It's funny, during this time, your routine is gone. Your old routine is gone, because mine was a 5 a.m. wake up, uh, do a little bit of reading, checking the emails, then get on my elliptical, uh, put out my morning message every morning, work out. So 35 minutes of cardiovascular workout, 25 minutes of training, strength training, and then shower, get ready, out the door, and start my work. That was the routine. Now it's gone. So I'm capturing the value of sleeping in. First of all,
Hmm.
that's one thing I'm doing. I'm taking advantage of that because there's no routine, and so now it's created a new routine. Now it again shift. This time right now is just, you must be. The next talk I'm working on, platform work on, is this Darwinianism, which is the survival of the fittest. Today, you must be adaptable and survive, because today is going to call for mental fitness, emotional fitness, spiritual fitness, physical fitness, financial fitness. I mean, you must. This is going to survival of the fittest. I'm not worried about the virus as much, because this too shall pass, and I pray for those who are dealing with it or who've lost somebody. But the aftermath of the virus is where we must be prepared for. So it's really going to call for your audience to really buckle down, double down on your self-care, double down, because you're going to have to deal with what's happening after this is over. This new normal, you must be adaptable. And to be adaptable, you got to put your mask on first. You got to take care of yourself. You got to, right now is a great time to step back, look at your finances. You got some time now, most people, if you're not working for remotely, you have some extra time. There's no sports, no distraction. I mean, seriously, you can't find any more less distraction than now. You
Right.
know, how many more repeats can you watch, right? So now's the time to step back and go, what is my budget? What have I been living? What can I cut out? How can I be lean, mean, and moving forward? How can I take care of my body, my mind? Do some meditation. Grab the Calm app. Grab the, Headspace, Insight Timer. You always want to meditate. Do it. Online courses. Yale is offering free courses. Harvard's offering free courses. People, the barrier to entry is wide open. How are you going to reinvent yourself? What's your second act, third act? What do you want to do? So it's a
Yeah,
great time.
I agree. I'm actually currently studying at MIT and Harvard right now, which is going to look good on the documentation afterwards. Because when in
There you
history
go.
have you been able to say that? And again, I even love we're using the same analogies. I had another guest last week, and we were talking about the moral ethics of selling versus serving.
Right.
And I'm a huge fan of serving, but I even use the analogy that you got to put your own mask on first before helping
Yeah.
other people. And it became part of a very interesting debate about where are the fine lines, what's the morality behind it, and you know, taking care of you versus serving others at your own expense, which I personally
Right.
don't agree with. So it was a good conversation, and we actually talked about one of the subsystems we have in our programs called the 7 F's, which is, you know, your family, your friendship, your fitness, your faith, your function, your future, and your finance. It's all the different areas of your life.
Yep.
And we use this approach to dispel the myth of work-life balance, because there's never been such a thing. So the way we do it is every quarter there's a self-assessment questionnaire you do, and based on those results, it will inform you of what your 3 key focus areas are going to be.
Right.
So in some ways, it's very true what you're saying right now. The distractions have been taken away. Sure, a lot of our steady incomes have been taken away if we're in that type of environment. And yet at the same time, it gives us the ability to really focus and redefine who we're going to be. Now, at the same time, I've also talked with a couple of guests on the show about honoring where you are in that grief process. If
Yeah.
you're not ready yet, don't force yourself to be ready. I've seen some posts out there by the most well-meaning people that talk about, you know, if you haven't shifted, if you haven't figured out what your next step is, then you didn't lack time, you lacked self-discipline. And I had to come down on that so hard, because right now we need more kindness and more empathy than ever before, because none of us have been through this. Maybe some of the older generation with the wars,
No.
but none of us have been anything
Yeah.
like through anything
Globally.
like this. So that process has to be real, has to be raw, and we have to support one another through that. And that goes back to your statement on Darwinism. It's not just who's going to survive the virus and who isn't. It's who's going to have the support network to recover once the virus is gone. And that's been part of what our focus has been as a business, setting
Yeah.
people up so they can pivot and be sustainable in whatever that new normalization is. Because the truth is, I think that impact is going to be far greater than what we're going through now.
Yeah. You know what's great? And I was just gonna back up what you said too.
Of course.
You know, even our aunts, even the Spanish flu, even the people who've gone through previous pandemics, I don't know if it's ever been global like it is now, where we're so connected. Technology that connects us, that we love so much, is also the technology that's causing this to be such a higher focus.
Right.
It's global, like you stars, gender. I mean, you just know, I can't say it's it's Canada, it's US, global, Jamaica. I mean, you name it, it's global. This is the only thing that's leveled the playing field for every country. So it's never, seriously unprecedented. My wife's getting tired of that word unprecedented, but it really is unprecedented. It's never been global like this. So, but it really does cause a shift in us. And you know what's interesting? I got to give you credit and others like you who are forward thinkers. You know, my wife went to a seminar she owns a dance studio, and she went to a seminar last year introducing Zoom online dance classes. Didn't pay attention to it. All of a sudden this year she was going like, what was that Zoom class again? What, that thing, I saw it. And now she's on Zoom. So early adopters should be applauded. Now what's making me do now, my shift, another shift I'm doing, or pivot, is looking at what didn't I hear that was presented to me, and I'm going to practice. I'm gonna be open now to new, exploring some ideas. Instead of shutting people off right away and things I don't understand, I'm gonna be more open now to listening a little bit and then making a decision after listening.
Right, and I love that you're even talking about that, because you know, from my perspective, doing what we do as a team and helping others is, yeah, we're seeing so many people on Zoom and other platforms like it. And if you have any technical skills at all, it's got a very low barrier to entry. It's pretty straightforward to set up a Zoom call. So especially in health and fitness, you're seeing tons of people doing online workout programs and this and that. And the intention through these marketing purposes is to stay top of mind, so that when things do normalize, suddenly, you know, everyone's going to remember that these people were out there. But here's the thing, Alvin, even before this, there were millions of workout videos on YouTube. There was millions of opportunities like this, and those people aren't all rich and ahead of the curve. And the reason being is, and again, I'm not criticizing people. We all do what we have to do to cope. We all do what we have to do to feel on purpose. Where we come in is help you see whether those efforts are actually going to be effective for you long term or not. So a perfect example, and should you choose to pivot or shift over to Zoom, we encourage people, first of all, to make it interactive, much like you and I are doing right now, especially in health and wellness. How can you, doing what you do, just get up and say, okay, here's how we're going to do a self-test. Well, really, there's only certain things you can self-test, and it's a very small subset of what you treat. And at the same time, then, a lot of people aren't doing pre-registrations for their events in Zoom. And the reason you want to do something like that is if you have a team like ours or someone who's technical in your life, you can automate a process where all the relevant data from those registrants can be captured and put into a customer relationship management system. So you can automate nurturing campaigns that keep in touch with them. So as things do normalize, you're not out of sight, out of mind. You still have their contact info. Yeah. There's an old phrase my mentor taught me is, he who has the contact info controls the conversation. And so many people are talking, but they're not equipping themselves to be able to continue to talk when their audience logs out. So 100%. Stuff like that, keep it in mind as you're exploring new options is how can I make this part of my norm going forward? 100%. Part of my norm going forward. Like if I walked into your office, the first thing they do when we're done is, okay, when would you like to book your next appointment? Business 101, the principles are the same, just the tools are different.
That's right. True. Very true. And that's where definitely we'll be talking, because again, I was just, as we were talking before we got on the call, Britain, 10 years, they've been trying for 10 years to get their population, the older population, to, not crowd the doctor's office, but use telemedicine as an option, and they would not do it. Now, all of a sudden, they're open to it because they have no choice. So, this is what this time has done.
Well, it is, and it's always that way. I mean, you mentioned it previously before the call. Early adopters versus the masses. I call it proactive versus reactive. But globally, we've been kicked in the pants in the most reactive way possible. And what I find fascinating, and I'm genuinely impressed for the most part, at least in Canada and some of the other countries in Europe, is how quickly the processes and systems that exist are doing their best to catch up. A perfect example for health and wellness is the Ontario colleges, right? They are not huge fans of telemedicine by and large. So you talk about that idea, and it has been around a while, but it hasn't really gained a lot of traction. And now it's forced, and the colleges are like, okay, what do we say? So, we can't change the documentation that quickly. There's a process, but in the meantime, let's just tell everyone, do what you need to do to survive. And once they finally got that decision, of course, then the government said, no, we're just shutting down all the clinics anyway. Yeah. But it's interesting to see how things are doing their best to catch up to circumstance.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's still reactive, but they're doing a good job. Like, whether you like Trudeau, whatever your political affiliations are, I am so impressed with how quickly our government at all level has come to the aid of the people. We actually had regional councillor Pickles on here last week, and it was a great conversation with him. Him and I, Dave, we've been friends for years. We've worked together in the city of Pickering together. And we were talking about all the stuff that's been happening even in our own backyard. And for the most part, it echoes and ripples as what we see in the world is, by and large, human beings are leveraging social tools to finally do what they were intended for, which is to stay connected, to reach out, and to support one another. And I can't imagine, to your earlier point, Alvin, I can't imagine what it would have been like before we had this type of technology. Yes, it's a double-edged sword. We get too much disinformation and everything else. But imagine how much more unbearable this self-isolation would be if we're not allowed out of our homes and we had no way of getting up-to-date information.
Yeah, or communicate with your loved ones at all.
Right.
At all.
That's so just fascinating times, blessed times. So tell me what's going on with your family? What are they up to? What's next? Like, you're exploring different options. Is there anything you can tell us as, like, okay, maybe I'll go back to what I was doing in a different way because I still want to serve people that way? Or has something new struck your passion?
You know, I'm very fortunate. We are very fortunate family-wise. First of all, with health. You know, we're safe that way. But my kids they're lucky enough, I would say it's luck, to be in industries like the banking. My oldest son is in banking. My other is he's in enterprise car rentals, and he's in a management here. So it's kind of give him some security there. My daughter, unfortunately for my daughter, she danced for the Raptors, and as we know, all sports are finished. So she'd had to talk about pivot. She's had to pivot now, and she just became a massage therapist. So both for her, it's like everything that she's been doing is cut. And
Right.
she literally worked with one client and then they shut it down. So she's had to make some shifts. And so now she's going online, and she's a dancer. So she does a lot of her classes online, and she dances. She works with my wife at the dance studio and teaches there and instructs. So she's making some shifts. So the kids are doing great. And my last son, he's 14. So he's adapting to the school system and so forth. And, you know, but in the future for me, I'm going to now, you know, I've always been just, again, dabbling with this online, because I don't know if I said this while we were live, but I was saying I was playing with it in 99, 2000. I was playing, dipping my toes, because I started to realize that my job is really precarious, because I have to be healthy and have to be in front of you to make money. So that kind of scared me. So I started looking around in 2000. We're talking pay-per-clicks. We're talking, you know, online investments, things like that. I was looking at different models. And then, you know, there's a bunch of crashes. Then the internet bust happened, and later on, and then the real estate bust, and we have a bust and ups and downs. So I've watched everything. And all this time I've been just I've even made videos where I was gonna go online and teach online. This was way back. I even have a thing sitting right here beside me of a video I made that I was going to repurpose it online, but I never got to it. So guess what? This thing has now forced me, okay, Alvin, let's go. I've built my websites. I've done so many things playing over here, but focusing on my bricks and mortar, the things I can touch, feel. I was a late adopter, semi-late. I was dabbling, but I wasn't really serious. So now this has forced me to get going. And so I'm gonna have a hybrid when this all passes. When this too shall pass, I'm gonna have a hybrid of keeping mind on, you know, I'm gonna definitely be talking to you about, I'm now open to listening. I'm definitely be talking to you about everything you just said about, you know, effectively using the tools that are there to connect and to remove geography and time. And I've been using a virtual assistant for 10 years now. So I know of that, you know, that magic of that. So I know of them. You know, my mentor said this. He said, you can be one of two things. You can be familiar or you can be a master. So I was familiar with a lot of things. Now I'm going to move to mastery, because I'm going to move to paying attention now and actually applying. So for me, you know, I'm one of if any of your audience is listening to this, you know, I'm one of those person who, my main source of income, 90% is coming from bricks and mortar, me being in front, my staff, all that kind of thing. Trust me, I'm losing every day money, quote unquote, but I'm not, it is what it is. You know, one thing I learned from boxing, you know, the toughest part about boxing is the first 3 steps. The steps you use to walk into that ring. When you're in, you're in. There's nothing you can do. You can't turtle up and run. You got to face what you have. So I find for me, there's no corner people in the ring with you. When you look across, it's your opponent. That's what we have now. We have no options. You're in the ring. You didn't have a choice to turn back. You are in. So you can turtle up and pray it works out, fingers crossed, and keep your eyes closed, and hopefully the government takes care of you, or you can do both. And I'm going to go back to what you said. I'm actually so proud of our countries and any other country out there that's, you know, this applies to, how they've rallied to, I mean, you know, they're going to support me with, it's not, obviously I don't have to pay my entire bill, but if I'm getting anything, through this time, and then the loan forgiveness and all the things they're doing. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it, and I'm going to use it to at its best advantage. I'm going to use that at best advantage because we're in it. We've climbed up the 3 steps. We went under the ropes. We're in. Guess what? Can't do anything about it. You can't turn around. You can't run back. So it's woman up, man up, whatever you want to call it. You got to face it.
So I actually love the phrase woman up, believe it or not, just for so many reasons. But I have to say, I've never heard the boxing analogy before. That's now my new favorite analogy, and I'm going to use it often with people.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And here's the interesting observation. 2 things I'd like to move to is, one is, like you said, you had 2 clinics, you pulled down back to the one in Pickering. You're very well established in Durham region. You had a staff. So you were doing the entrepreneur dream successfully. You were doing everything that you were told to do, not trade your time for money, right? Have other people working, you take a cut. That's how you build the wealth and everything. And then something like this comes along and it just stops everyone, right? And what's interesting about that, and I'll encourage you, this is a freebie for you, for everyone listening. One of the key components of business is risk analysis, and there is a process for it. Like you said, Yale, MIT, Harvard, all these universities are now online and free. There are risk management professional courses out there. So I would look at that, because that has to become part of your, quarterly rhythm in business, is doing a fragile analysis, saying, okay, what new tools are coming into the world? What's the new trends coming into the world? What does our politics look like? The environment? Because that's what this one is. This was an environmental threat that people weren't prepared for. And as silly as it sounds, I mean, a big part of the job I do on the corporate level is coming up with these type of catastrophic recovery plans. I've written plans for alien invasions. I've written plans for meteors taking out half of North America. I've written plans for all of these things and had to come up with practical solutions to get companies up and running within 3 days of these catastrophes. And that's an essential part of that proactivity we're talking about, because unfortunately, if you're left scrambling, you're left scrambling. And right now we're all there, including the government, who we acknowledged is really proud of. But something else I was just telling another client this morning, who we were discussing where their finances were at, how they're doing for liquidity and such. And they're like, yeah, we got a ton locked up in RSPs, so we're good. And that gave me pause. The reason it gave me pause, and this isn't to put more panic into an already, challenging time. But the truth is depending on how long this continues, the government bailouts, the government support could put us in a worse financial situation long term. And what a lot of people don't understand is that certain government issued bonds and RRSPs and things like this, in the fine print, it says quite literally, in a crisis, the government can use that money to get the country through and never have to pay you back. So a lot of people that have so much money invested in these long-term strategies, which, we all do, it makes sense to do. They don't realize that, yes, the government is helping everyone right now, which is amazing and wonderful. But if we don't collectively find solutions for how to move forward on our own, like you said, if we don't all get in that ring together and face it, then the well will run dry, and that will cost all of us. I don't look forward to that myself.
No, and our memories are short when we will forget that. Why are we paying so much taxes again? Oh, right, because we ended up,
Well, and that's exactly how the taxes were introduced. Modern day taxes. I mean, taxes have been around since biblical days. But I remember the story my grandfather told me, and I researched it, and it turned out it's true. It was introduced as a wartime temporary tax because it was the same situation. Everyone was forced to stay at home because there's a world war going on, and they could not keep up with the supply needed. So they had to start taking from people. So they said, we're going to introduce a temporary tax for the war effort. And then once the war is gone, we'll remove that tax. Tax has never gone away.
Checks in the mail. Yeah.
That's right. I'm still waiting. 1918 called, right?
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, the governments are doing the best they can, but I think more than anything, what this conversation, and I'm so glad that it was with you, what really I think has resonated for me in this message is that with the time you do have, educate yourself on these types of things. Don't be afraid of what you don't know, because there is a world of information available to you at your fingertips right now. So go out, tune into more things like this, sign up for free courses, go verify, test everything. Go talk to your banker about RSPs, or talk to your financial expert or your accountant and find out, okay, am I at risk? Like, it's not hard to educate yourself on new things. So I'm loving that. That's our recurring theme.
And I wanted to touch on one thing that you said earlier, just not too long ago. Listen, Marcus, when this started, I did take a week. That's when I got into TikTok. But I did take a week to just do nothing, like to kind of let it settle and let my mind, what's happening right now, the surrender piece. And now I'm ready to go back to some kind of a new normal routine for now. And then there'll be change again, and who knows how long.
Right.
So you're right, 100%. And the audience out there listening, yeah, you know what? If you do feel overwhelmed, take some time. Don't be overwhelmed too long. Take some time to let it settle. Journal. Don't leave it in your head, though, in my opinion. Don't leave it in your head, because a lot of 60,000 thoughts a day, whatever the number is, rolls around your mind, and it's regurgitated, past, present, it's just all in there. But if you journal on where you're at right now, what's going on in your mind, like I'm journaling right now on this experience, because we tend to forget. We have short memories, and we go back to normal and start doing the same thing. We're going to forget that we miss human touch. We're going to forget that we miss connection. We're going to forget that, wow, I had some time for introspection, some time to hang out with the family. I was like, this is like your mom telling you to go to your room when you were young, grounded. How many times have you wished as an adult someone would tell you to get grounded? Like, this is it, you're grounded. Yay. Right? Yeah. So I took it. I took a week. So in fairness to those who are, worrying, am I behind the 8 ball? Take your time. Take some time. Not all the time. Take some time.
Right. Well, and I think the key was there, like what you said, is there's a process to how to move through these things. And I do a lot of journaling as well, and gratitude. You do that. It may not be what works for everybody. So it's a matter, again, it all falls back to test everything. For example, I've been going through a lot of physical stress for the last 6 months. So I've had different apps, and I've been testing different things, everything from breath work to meditation to changing my workups out to nutrition, and eventually found out what works for me, because I am a unique individual. So figure out what your process is for working through your grief. If it's a little bit of comfort food, if you're going to use that as a process, great, but don't stay there. That's the important thing I'm getting from this, is don't stay there. Process it, get in the ring, but fight your rounds and win. Right.
Yeah. And if you want to go with the metaphor, count on your corner people. Come back take a break, do your 8 count, come back to the corner, get salient, listen to your corner people, get your strategy, and go back out again with a good plan. The one thing that I want to say before we quickly end is the idea of fear versus respect. We don't fear what's happening now, because fear puts you into fight, flight, freeze. Right. Eventually become stunted. Respect what's going on now. When I face an opponent, if I was facing Marcus, and I know Marcus is better than I am, I'm not going to fear you. What I'm going to do is respect you. I'm going to respect you for what you brought to the table, your skills, everything that you brought, your expertise. I'm going to respect you. I'm not going to allow you to put me in fear, though, because when I respect you, I can think I got strategies. When you put me in fear, this is why boxers do stare-offs. They stare off so they can control you. Once they control you by fear, they know it's a game over. All the trash talk, the looking in the eyes, that's all to set up the fear. If you're not fearful, Mike Tyson got beat by Buster Douglas because he showed him no fear. He showed him no respect, no fear. Mike Tyson went, what is going on? He got beat. So what I'm getting at, everybody dealing with this right now, is be mindful of not becoming fearful. Because fear will, as the weeks go on, it will make you really become deer in a headlight. Respect what's going on, meaning that this virus is very virulent. It deserves respect. That means staying home, social distancing. That's a respect. Not going out like, I don't care what this is, who cares? That's going to lead you into trouble. When you disrespect it, you'll end up suffering too. So 2 things, not disrespect it and not fear. Just respect it and do what you're supposed to do.
Agreed. And I mean, that's, that's really what it is. It's the same old, right? It only takes a few to ruin the batch kind of thing. So
Yeah.
just please, more than anything, stay home. It sucks for all of us, but we got to do it so that it
We're
can
all in
stop
together.
faster, right? Exactly. All of us together.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alvin, for your time, man.
Thank you.
It was really good to connect, and stay
Yeah.
on the line. I'm gonna chat with you for a bit after, but so good to
You
do this.
got it.
All right. And
Thanks,
everybody else,
everybody. Thank you, Marcus, and thanks, everybody out there.
awesome. And we are out.